If you are looking to build your self-esteem, I have a fantastic book for you guys. Now, my name is Marcus. This is Discover Ignite, where we discover possibilities and ignite change. And today, I actually have a book review for you guys. And the book I'm going to be reviewing is the Six Pillars of Self-Esteem by Dr. Nathaniel Branden. So hold on, stick tight, and let's get this book review started. So no matter if your self-esteem is at a 0 or at a 5, this book can help you out, giving you some practical advice that you can apply to your everyday life. This is extremely important because I always talk about self-esteem and something that you have to maintain, right? Because it takes a lot to build your self-esteem, and it doesn't take very much for it to essentially come crumbling down, right? So to have some actual practical tools that will help you guys build that self-esteem, right, on a consistent daily basis, you realize that this is ultimately what's going to help you build that self-esteem up. And some of the pillars of this book go into acceptance. I know acceptance is a huge one, right? There's a lot of times when we battle specific things in our life and we just need to accept whatever the outcome was, whether it was good or bad, whatever the case is. We just need to accept that and move on, right? Because if we don't accept that, we find that we start living in the past, right? We don't do anything in the present day to actually improve our lives or go after those things that we truly want in life, because we're not accepting of what happened, right? And we're holding on for too much of our time, and that is one of the big pillars. And then another one is just being responsible. Now, I talk about being responsible a lot, and I think it's extremely important to be responsible for everything that happens in your life. And for me, I always thought this was kind of out there, but the more I started hearing it, the more I started believing it, right? When you accept whatever happens to you in your life, whether you absolutely have control over it or you don't, just taking responsibility for it, right? Maybe you got in a car accident and you became paralyzed, right? Well, yes, stuff like that does truly suck. But the thing is what are you going to do from that point? Are you just going to accept that? Or are you going to move on from that and live your life, right? Continue to do what you can, right? And so this book, really, it takes some of these principles, these 6 principles, and apply them to your everyday life, right? Now, I'm not saying you have to get in a car crash to apply some of these principles, but they're daily small things. And the best thing I do enjoy about this book is that he talks about taking small steps, right? You don't have to be a perfectionist. You just have to get a little bit better than you are today, right? Not to think about this big, this big person that has all this confidence, right? And this self-image that's indestructible. If you think of it that way, especially if you're coming from like a 0 in your self-esteem, scale, that can seem very far-fetched, right? And to think of that can be overwhelming. It may even cause some anxiety, right? It may cause a bunch of different things. So the easiest thing to do is to not to be a perfectionist, work on it every single day, implement these pillars, right, into your everyday life. And you find that the more you do this, right, the more you practice that repetition, the more you are doing this on a daily basis, you start slowly building that self-esteem up. And like I said, it's one of those things that you got to maintain and slowly build up. And then when you realize that at some point you will reach that point where you are extremely confident and you have a good self-image and your self-esteem is through the roof, right? And it's important because a lot of times, again, you'll get that one thing that will kind of just knock you down a couple pegs, but at least you'll be at a couple pegs higher than you are now. And these pillars essentially set that foundation, that blueprint for you to help you maintain that self-confidence, even through some of the darkest times, but allow you to be, a person that's got, strong self-image no matter what is going on, and allow yourself to build that self-esteem that perhaps you are lacking. And I truly think that, having that self-esteem can really make a difference in your life. And having a good self-image and having high self-esteem, even when those things that you chase after life, right? Some of them things can seem outrageous and there's no way you think you're going to be able to do it, but having that high self-esteem, you challenge that. You want to really see what you're made of. And so if you have a high self-esteem, you open yourself up to new opportunities because you're willing to challenge it, because you know what you're capable of. And a lot of these pillars essentially prove to you on a daily basis, hey, look, if you did this, right, if you accepted some of these things in your life, if you took responsibility, right, you would do much better in life, right? And again, he goes over 6 principles that I think are really easily to implement in your life, right? And essentially maybe just practice 1 or 2 on a daily basis till you get those down, and then slowly incorporate them all. It took me a while to build up a lot of these different principles that he was talking about in this book, but they were some great principles, and I've learned them throughout my life, right? I've essentially taken knocks in my self-esteem to essentially realize what was going on, right? So reading this book for myself, it reiterated a lot of stuff I was already aware. And I'm not saying that, I'm this, super confident person, right? I have to always be maintaining that confidence, right? And maintaining that self-image, that self-confidence, that self-esteem, and building it up, right? By challenging myself. And essentially that's what this does, right? Is making yourself aware of what you're doing and realizing where you've come and where you're going, and building these things up, right? And this ultimately will lead you to a strong foundation, which will allow you to do essentially all those things that you've always dreamt about doing, that you thought possibly you could never do, right? And so this book I thought was a fantastic book. I think it can help anybody out there. So if you're really interested in this book, I'll actually leave it down in the description, because I think, again, we all need to maintain our self-esteem, and it's, again, something you have to do on a consistent basis. As far as like any cons of this book, I must say it was short, right? It was a short book. Again, it only goes over the 6 pillars, and it actually came quite fast, right? So if you are looking to like build your self-esteem fast, this is definitely one of those books. Sometimes I like to have a little bit more, essentially meat on the bone, right, to get into a little bit more details about stuff. But this book essentially just lays it out, right? It throws everything out there. So if you're looking for one of those books that just, I want to fix my self-esteem right now, this is one of those books, right? It just throws it all out there for you, so you can understand what's going on and start building that as fast as possible, right? Because again, it doesn't take much to tear down your self-esteem, but it takes extremely long time to build it up. So again, if you do enjoy this video, remember to like this video. Also, again, I will leave the book down in the description. And until next time, I will see you guys later.